You are now entering the Take-Up, a place to gather when the film is over. I'm your host, Joshua Ray, and I'm here with my co-host, the managing editor of the Take-Up.com, Andrew Wyatt. Hello, Andrew.
Hello.
Every episode, we decide if one film gets to enter the Take-Up's permanent cinema. Today, we are talking about Sophie Romvare's new film, Blue Heron, one of the best films of the year, according to many critics. We'll see if we agree, and then we'll have one more thing. I just watched a Claude Chabrol. You know, I'm on the thing.
Yeah.
Starring Donald Sutherland, Donald Pleasance, David Hemmings, but it's about an incestuous love triangle between some teenagers, and one, of course, is brutally murdered. It was one of the most tonally confused, and
for me, that describes all Chabrol to me.
Well, it sounds like it, but it was made in Quebec, we think.
Mm-hmm.
But half it feels like an Argento in that it's half of it is dubbed, half of it is, and it was a thoroughly mixed up, confusing time because watching the cousins fuck.
Wait, what year is this?
1978, but it was so barely released. It didn't come out in the States until 1981. It's called Blood Relatives. That is not a recommendation.
It's a good title, though.
It's a Blood Relatives
for a movie about incest and murder.
Yeah, I thought it was more V.C. Andrews than Alfred Hitchcock.
Oh yeah, that's true. But I like that juicy pulpiness.
Yeah, me too. That's why he's kind of like my comfort food right now. Plus, I get to just live in France. So we're back with another film about a filmmaker wading through their grief. I mean, I don't mean to not sound excited to talk about this, but I feel like I might turn this into an hour-long therapy session. I don't have anyone here, so thanks, Andrew.
No, that's permissible. That's permissible. That's one of the functions of cinema, is to serve as a vessel for our own issues.
So do you want to talk about that first? Because that is something I really want to talk about with you, and it comes to this particular film.
Okay.
And films like After Sun, films that elicit the cry reaction.
Okay.
Why do I feel like as a critic, I might elevate those films that successfully elicit that particular emotion from me over others. And is that okay?
Well, why are you suspicious of that? I mean, I know you had, what I know about you as a film viewer and a film critic is that you bristle sometimes at feelings of emotional manipulation on the part. If you feel emotionally manipulated by a film, you sometimes bristle at that. So I understand why I understand why you are suspicious when you have that sensation of yourself, but maybe it's not a good idea to second guess our emotions.
Oh. Huh. Well,
not to turn this into therapy, but
no, I said it was fine. That's why I wanted to talk about it. No, I guess and you're right. No, so the manipulation is something, and this film, After Sun, and films like Drive My Car. I mean, we're talking about films that I know are great. I know, but also tap into something very specific, and I kind of identify with them.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if I don't elevate them because I identify with them, and if that is an anti-intellectual reaction.
I don't I'm really resistant to treating it in that sort of binary way. I think we could all stand to be a little bit more honest with ourselves about our reactions to art, I think, in general.
Yeah.
But I think about this in terms of this specific, I hate to call it a subgenre, but the specific idea of films that we feel deeply moved by for reasons that are intensely personal. I mean, doesn't that go to the ethos that we have always talked about with the Take-Up and our personal film philosophies, that subjective experience and personal connection to material is often an essential part of understanding why something works or doesn't work for you, as opposed to understanding why it works. Understanding your own reactions, I think, is a more productive thing than setting it aside and saying, well, cynically setting aside and saying, well, I was just manipulated, so I could discard that as a non-intellectual, non-cerebral reaction, and let's just forget about that.
But I wanna kind of cordon off the idea of the manipulation, and that I don't feel manipulated by this film, After Sun, Drive My Car, Petite Maman, films that I think of recently that specifically, I mean, we're talking about my mom's death and like the great grief that I've been going through in the past 5 years, and like dealing with that. And I think like even while I was growing up, I would kind of respond to those kind of stories because I had an older parent, you know. But I think we can set aside something like, I don't know, I haven't seen this in a long time, The Notebook, the tearjerker, like as a genre, and talk about these films that actually do make me cry because I like can identify with them, and I cry for other reasons. I cry at like beautifully constructed things too.
Yeah.
I mean, like great art, right? But I can also like get deeply touched, in a way where like I just don't want to think that elevate something because, oh, I identify with this and therefore it makes it great. But I can say it does allow me to say that this thing is honest and this contains truth in it.
I think, so let me say something about that. I think, and to get us maybe more focused on Blue Heron, I think what you're saying there, the honesty is important, because with something like particularly this film and After Sun, Take-Up Canon, canonized After Sun, TM, that there's an honesty and a sort of fumbling uncertainty on the part of the filmmakers themselves about their own project that I think really, and maybe it is all, maybe we need to be more cynical, maybe it all is a pose, but they're, with both of those films, and I think particularly with this one, I definitely get a sense that the filmmaker is working out their shit and maybe not even sure, while they're making the thing, they're not even sure if the thing is the right way to be working out their shit. There's an ambivalence and uncertainty about it that comes part and parcel with grief, about a questioning, a self-reflection, a constant self-doubt that I think is expressed in the film object itself, which I think is really essential to getting at that,
the sense of like centering yourself, like finding the locus of like my narrative and what is the truth and what is like reality. How do I find that in this fiction world?
Right.
That's so we're talking about the
what?
We are talking about did I say the title of it? We're talking about the film Blue Heron, the debut feature from Sophie Ramvari. Ramvari, Hungarian born filmmaker.
No, I think she's Hungarian by ethnicity, but she's the only member of her family who was born in Canada.
Who was born in Canada. Okay.
I believe is my impression. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I've spent most of the day with her, because on the Criterion channel, not only is Blue Heron now streaming there, but most of her shorts are there too. And it's interesting that you bring up the idea of, kind of what this film is about, because a lot, and the word that you used is pose, right? And I am interested in talking about positioning oneself in front of the camera and being completely naked, emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
Because several of her short films have her do that. And her calling card short, which was a breakout, it played at festivals, called Still Processing.
Mm-hmm.
I love that kind of the double meaning on that.
Yeah, it's pretty clever.
It's she's a very clever filmmaker, we should say. And, I think she carries that part and parcel with a really kind of, feeling cinema too. Like, she has a really she's got tricks up her sleeve, but also, they're not for nothing. Anyway, Still Processing is about this very subject, and is,
but without the remove. I watched it yesterday as well, and it's without the remove of the slight fictional gloss that she puts on it.
Yeah.
In Blue Heron, it's completely gone and Still Processing. It's a more straightforward, maybe not straightforward, but a more obviously autodoc.
Yeah, yeah, sure. That makes total sense. Where she's processing old camera negatives of her brother or of her family as they're growing up, and talking about the kind of relatively new-ish grief she has over the loss of her two brothers. And in Blue Heron, this is a, ostensibly fiction film about a family that is, we join them in media res, where they're moving to a new house, and it's a small family. There are 4 children. 3 children of that are biologically the 2 parents, and 1 who is the fathers from marriage. Do I have that right?
The mothers from the previous
mothers from marriage. Thank you.
Or,
Yes,
or a previous relationship of some kind.
Yeah. Anyway, so who also has like parent behavioral issues, and so the film centers really on the experience of the youngest child. And with that, it then shifts into a different film that I think we don't necessarily have to talk about them separately, but there is something that happens midway through the film, a little bit more than midway through the film, where we find ourselves with an older version of that child. And she is a filmmaker who's wanting to make a documentary about her upbringing. And the trick that happens is that she essentially time travels, and that's not in a science fiction way. It is in a like very poetic way, to take the place of the person the social worker who recommended sending her problem brother off. And that's pretty much the entire film there. But it is a film about the kind of mundane details about textures, smells, and taste, like the sensations of growing up, and then looking back and finding what the narrative was there, or at least attempting to.
One thing I loved, I also watched her little interview that's currently on the Criterion channel, the Meet the Filmmakers series that they do, where they usually do like a 10 to 15 minute thing about a featured film. And she said something that really stuck with me, which is that one of the things she's really interested in investigating with her filmmaking is how film can be used to try to evoke a memory or a sense memory or a place or time from the past, but specifically how she's interested in the fact that it's always going to fail on some level. That she's fascinated with it, she's obsessed with it. It's a recurring theme in all her work, and yet she fundamentally recognizes that it's a futile endeavor. That there's something always imperfect and flawed and off about it, which I really like. I like that idea that she's laboring at it, but she also acknowledges that there's something Sisyphean about it, and that she's never really going to achieve that perfect recreation because you can't, because it's impossible.
But grasping towards it seems very important for her.
Oh yeah.
She's so skilled, like seemingly preternaturally skilled. I knew that when, as it turns out, the camera is sitting inside of the moving truck, and you can just barely see the door.
That little line of light.
You just see a line of light. And that was so evocative to me. Like, I've never sat in the back of a moving truck with the door almost shut, but she just sits and lingers in that. She does a lot of lingering in this. And it was just instantly, I can feel everything in that. Like, I totally understand what this means here.
Yeah, the opening sequence, I think, is whatever else it does really well. It's also a pretty great, like, late 90s Memory Palace movie.
Yeah.
About the textures and the feelings of being sort of at the very end of the analog age. But since her oldest brother, Jeremy, in the film, his name is Jeremy, the oldest brother's problems, and I think that there's a lot of problem with, like, diagnosis is a big part of the problem that's burbling under the surface here, and inadequacy of service and inadequacy of assistance. But watching the performance and how it's presented, oppositional defiant disorder seems to be partly what's going on here. But
I think that comes up in a conversation that she creates a panel that's before she goes to play social worker.
Yeah.
She has a panel, and it seems like those people are really social workers. Like,
I don't know. Like, they certainly seemed, if they're actors, they did a great job of pretending not to be actors. Like, it feels like she actually called in half a dozen Canadian social workers and talked to them about with expertise specifically in juvenile behavior. But one of the things I loved about that opening, maybe the opening half, is excuse me, how slowly, like, I went into this not necessarily knowing what this movie was about. I knew that it was kind of a memory movie, but how slowly we get the picture that Jeremy is the problem, that the way that his the cues from his behavior we get maybe in, like, the first 15 to 20 minutes in the movie only slowly pull back the curtain on just how deep-rooted and unsettling and how destabilizing to this family his behavior has become. But she doesn't open with a big...
And violent and scary, yeah.
Yeah, but she doesn't open... A different kind of film could have opened with a set piece where we get to see Jeremy, like, blowing up and behaving in a horrible way. And she doesn't do that. She eases us into it and gives us clues the same way a family would notice clues that a member of their family is maybe not well. She kind of does that for us as viewers.
Yeah, a family, but in particular, the youngest. And we're always
the watcher, the one who observes. Yeah,
we're always sort of in her subjective viewpoint, even when she's not present. You see arguments between mom and dad in Hungarian and from outside windows. There's a great distance, a long focal lens used, seemingly. I'm no expert, but I think that's really important, and that you get that not first that he was a nightmare and a very, like, frightening person. You get first that he's her brother. Like, there's an undying kind of love there. And the heartbreak of it is the process by which your heart is broken over the course of the film. When you see how the kind of oppositional defiance disorder it made manifest. And there's moments where I wouldn't be able, I would make the same decision, I think, as an adult. Like if my grown child, gets on the roof and is acting like he might jump, or is arrested for, shoplifting. But even those things, like, the negotiation of the filmmaker and the memories of this little girl, that is essentially what is happening at any given moment in this film, and the imagination behind what was the process of making that decision, trying to put yourself in the place of others, is ultimately what storytelling is about, right? Is like that the act of empathy is creating a character in order to figure out how minds work.
But it's also about that connection between her past and present self. I mean, the brother, the mystery of the brother, the mystery of Jeremy is maybe the more central one. But there is also this idea that Sasha, that as she names herself in this film, adult Sasha is trying to reach back to younger Sasha as a character who's maybe a little bit obscure to her as an adult. She's like, what was I thinking? Trying to remember what she thought about this situation, trying to recall, how did I think about this when I was 8 years old? I can't quite remember it. She says a couple times in this film, that part of time in my life, I don't have clear memories of.
Yeah.
Which is, again, the vividness of that first half sort of belies that. But I think she's being honest, that she's saying that she's having a hard time not recalling the feeling of drinking from the hose in suburban Canada in the late 90s. What she's having trouble remembering is, how did I feel about this situation? How did
it happen? How did it get so bad?
Doing forensics on her own family's crisis and disintegration, I think, is a fascinating way to view it. But it's a connection back to somebody who is completely inaccessible to her now due to his death. But it's also seeking a connection to her younger self. This sort of vanished person that she was, which I think it's so specific and so personal and so obviously emotionally raw, but also so universal. Don't we all do that? Don't we all think back to the person that we were when we were children and try to remember, what did we know and what didn't we know? How did we feel about the world back then when we were like that? It's just such a beautifully humanitarian, again, we've talked about this with lots of other films before. The universal through the specific is always an essential and powerful way to approach this kind of material.
Yeah. And there are other films that are about childhood that don't necessarily take a child's perspective, that take like a more remove, that are also great and have that. But that this works in that way is so spellbinding.
Did you ever see a film? The obvious comp is something like After Sun or All of Us Strangers, which I know you didn't like as much.
No.
But did you ever see a documentary film called Rewind from I think it was the late 2010s?
No, tell me about it.
This is a filmmaker. It's an absolutely stunning film. I think it was through PBS's Independent Lens. A filmmaker named Sasha Neulinger, who is a former child actor. And he made a film about his own childhood and the abuse that he suffered, and from a relative, I believe it was. And the film, the reason I thought of it is because his father in real life had the same impulse that Sophie's father had, which is to document everything with photographs and camcorder. And her father got his first camcorder and then basically just filmed everything all the time. So Neulinger takes the film he goes back to his parents' house. His father's passed at this point, and he uncovers all this footage that his father shot and tries to do forensics on his own sexual abuse and says, can I find clues in the material about what happened to me? Is there things around the margins when that person shows up on the screen? Was there a sign about what happened? Was there a sign about what this man did to me and my sister that I wasn't aware of at the time? And so again, the idea of using archival material, of looking back and trying to excavate something or learn something, and it sort of just like, it reminded me a lot of that, because I think just like Mulinger does, this director, Blue Heron, is trying to, it almost feels like she didn't know what she was going to find. She started digging through this material, and you can see that in still processing. She didn't know what was in her parents' sort of glut of material. And we watch her in still processing look at some of these photos in real time for the first time in 30 years, and her reactions just, I said pose earlier, but I can't believe they're fake, because the reactions are just too deeply felt and honest in how they're presented. It feels like it almost feels bad to be watching it, because we're watching a woman like having this stuff come flooding back to her in real time. It's very difficult to watch.
It is difficult to watch, but she put the camera there.
Yeah, of course.
That's another thing I want to talk about in these kind of like selfie vows. And I want to mention, did you ever see Jonathan Quet's Tarnation? Do you remember that?
No.
It's a similar thing, but it's like queer punk version of that.
Okay.
And his mother, who's diagnosed with schizophrenia, and then he made a follow up to it too. And it's very beautiful. I love these kind of investigations, even when they get pretty tough. But yeah, centering yourself, the filmmaker in it, how does that feel to you? And did you,
I don't mind it as
processing before or after this?
After I actually was aware of still processing for a few years now as being this like really important short film. But I watched Blue Heron and then immediately sat down and watched still processing. So I was aware of its reputation, but I didn't really know much about it.
Me too. I think it played
I'm not really
last year. We were there.
That sounds right. I don't really have strong feelings about it one way or the other. I think that there's a tendency, again, I'm trying to resist sort of binary thinking about this. There's one side you could say, people should be making films, especially young independent filmmakers should be making films about things that they know. And what do you know, or maybe want to know better than yourself and your own family and your own history? So I think that's an entirely valid approach to filmmaking. The other side is, of course, you could say that like there's always something inherently self-centering and narcissistic about making movies over and over about yourself and your family. I don't really buy either. I don't really buy either argument. I don't believe that this film or this type of film is narcissistic, but I also don't buy that there's always inherent worth in making movies about yourself to the exclusion of other subjects. I think filmmakers like this, like Rambari, who have skill at this, I always enjoy watching them tackle this kind of material. Does that make sense?
It does. And there's a big difference between what she's doing in still processing and centering it on herself and creating a version of it in order to work through it. These films are linked. They have, but it's also different from Jafar Panahi doing This Is Not a Film.
Right.
So all of these things are very different. Or again, Fellini and 8.5. That in and of itself is kind of definitionally narcissistic.
Except he's so autocritical in it,
Yeah. But I guess there's something here that it's like, if I initially bristle at it, it's because it's almost like too emotionally naked. And then I get kind of like, I try and overcome that and pretty successfully do it, because I think she's so gifted.
I will say that I think I had the idea what this film was up to, right? Like, so you're watching the first half. You alluded to this earlier.
Did you have the idea that it was up to this?
Well, no, what I was saying is I'm watching the first half and I was like, okay, I think I know what this movie is now. And then, of course, comes the break point, as you indicated, where we leap forward in time to adult Sasha, and as a filmmaker trying to interrogate this from a distance. And at that point I said, okay, now I know what this movie is up to, now that we're settled into the second half. But I really want to, you talked about the sort of twist. I hate to call it a twist, but it is kind of a swerve. The magical realist swerve of her going to her old house and knocking on the door, and right up until the moment that her old dad walks through the door. Okay. And as a young man, I thought that this was going to be her like talking to her older parents or something. And the breathlessness of that magic trick is so great.
I thought the magic trick was that they didn't bother to put them into makeup. Like, I still wasn't. It still was not clocking to me. Yeah. I'm like, but the second she goes in there and starts talking, I broke.
He says something on the doorstep like, "Oh, hi, you must be the social worker."
You must be. Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, wait a minute, what are we doing here?"
But throughout that, I mean, there are so many moments. We could talk about the unbroken take of her interrogating her mother.
Yeah.
That is just so beautifully done because the performer is so, the casting here is incredible. But there's just a small moment where she joins her younger self on the bed just to watch TV with her family. And there's something like, so kind of sweet and comforting, and, but also, it's also something like for the current Sophie, it's like, there were good times too, you know?
I mean, there's nothing awful happening in that moment. Her brother is laying right there. She's laying right there. Her other brothers are there, and they're just kids watching TV quietly. But it's a powerful, again, like, and this goes back to like why Petite Maman works so well. Isn't there something essential and universal about that? The idea that we could reach out and lay a hand on ourselves as children and say, it's going to be okay, kid. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Like, it's I'm getting misty just thinking about it. It's a powerful image. It's manipulative. Is it manipulative? I don't really care. Because when it's done effectively, it really cuts to the quick of something essential about being human.
Yeah. I don't find those two particular examples, and many of the examples we've brought up, as particularly manipulative. Mm-hmm. Especially Petite Maman. Oh, fuck. Well, now I'm thinking about that. And I hadn't really thought about the linkage between these two, because it's quite literally, anyway, sorry, I got inside my head for a moment. But
I think Petite Maman, foregrounds the magical realism of its conceit more robustly and more right at the outset. This is a film that sort of holds back the magic trick a little bit, maybe till the last third, which I think is an interesting approach.
And it's not, it doesn't even have like a conceit to it. Like, no. Petite Maman, like, that is kind of like, go through this magical thing and this happens, right? But that's the conceit that gets you there. But this is like, I am going to spend this time doing this. And it's kind of like, also, I thought about Synecdoche, New York.
Right.
And the living inside the life, your version of your life. And,
I mean, think about the logistics of how that whole like last third sequence is made. Mm. It's not just that Ramvari had to go find a house and cast a family, mm-hmm. and how eerie that must have felt to her, that she's trying to find somebody who works from a filmmaking, like narrative filmmaking perspective and can act, but it also has to be something that pings something for her as a person about her memories. She has to find a house that feels like the house that she grew up in. She has to find people who ping something in her memories about her own family. And then she has to cast an actress for herself and then insert that actress into that memory. That, like, I can't even imagine what's going through your head as a filmmaker when you're doing that.
Yeah. And there are a lot of films, fiction, nonfiction films, that deal with this kind of like process of investigating one's own life through art.
Well, I mean, we can't bring up Synecdoche without bringing up The Rehearsal, which is its own kind of wacky version of this.
Adaptation, there's so many ways of comparing and contrasting. And ultimately, I want to resist the comparisons because I do think this is a really special film. But it's really hard because it is sort of in it's in the shadow of these other great films.
But again, I'm really glad that I went into it not necessarily knowing what it was going to be doing. Yeah. Because if you had told me, oh, go watch, I think you said something about After Sun. That was my only indication that maybe something tragic or awful was going to happen. But for the most part, I went into this not knowing what it was up to. And if I had gone into it with a laundry list of other films to compare it to, maybe the effect wouldn't have been as profound as it was.
But would you have expected to compare it to any of the films that we've mentioned?
No, not really. But
but it's a very special film that I think there are some things that are centered that I might find a little like too cute,
such as
the blue heron. I mean, I like that idea, the kind of like totem that she carries with her, but it's like just kind of big symbolism. Also, the maps, the brothers' maps.
Okay, let me ask about the maps
as like a visual symbol, but I don't particularly love visual symbols. Period. But
well, the maps I think are really fascinating. They don't lean on them too hard, except in some aspects. They're there in his room. Every time they show his room, you can see them, and we get a couple shots or sequences where we see him sort of hunched over and laboring on them. But they incorporated it into the production design, of the title sequences. What I was sort of questioning, and I couldn't tell by looking at them, is he mapping the towns that they've implied that they've moved around a lot. So is he mapping the towns that they're in as sort of like a way to center himself when he arrives in a new place? Or are these completely fictional, like more like a paracosm where he's creating fictional towns and just sort of mapping out fantasies for himself?
That's what I got hung up on and thinking about that, because I think it's both and whatever you want it to be, just having like those dual kind of symbols, like dual totems of representations of her brother. But that's also something that people have, as as unsentimental I am about physical objects. People carry things with them. I have my mother's diamond ring that she had on. I carry it with me.
I think with the keychain in particular, I didn't mind it because of how low key it is. Because it's not like it was
low key. Yes,
it wasn't a favored possession of Jeremy. It was something Jeremy stole from a nature preserve and then like, sort of dropped it surreptitiously in her lap on a beach day, and that was the end of it. It never came up again. But then we get
but it takes on so much meaning for her.
Right.
And he's so unaware of it. That's what makes it's such an interesting object, is he's completely unaware of what it will end up representing. There is a single shot in this. It is the very last shot, I believe, where there's more kind of like trickery, like past me, future me, that I was kind of like, okay, enough. But these are like small things, really. That I think others might be able to lean on to mount a defense against it, and say that maybe it is a little too, or not a little too, it's like definitional navel gazing, but or twee even.
I mean, there is a certain Canadianness of it all in that respect.
Oh, okay.
A closing indie rock folk song over the credits, and everything.
Sure. Sure.
There's a definite Canadianness to it. But I don't mind it.
About that? Can we talk about that? I was a very bad audience member. The opening chords of that, I out loud said, nope. I immediately lost it. just immediately fucking lost it. It's Daniel Johnston's Some Things Last a Long Time.
Right. I mean, she also uses Simon and Garfunkel's bookends in the short film.
Yeah.
I mean,
which is great.
But I don't mind any of this because the filmmaking, the formal aspects of the filmmaking are so strong. The emotional honesty and the willingness to excavate something so personal are so obvious, and the result, again, the overall result to me is so achingly conveyed. It's just it's a deeply exquisite film, I think, in that respect, and I mean that not just in the sense of that it's beautiful, but in the sense of how there's something piercing about it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
in a way that all good emotionally films of this type, where we have an deeply emotional reaction to it. But to circle back to maybe in closing here, let's circle back to your original question. Is it like, why do you feel, I'm just interested in hearing maybe your off the cuff answer. Why do you feel suspicious of yourself when you have those kinds of emotional reactions?
I guess it's like a question of aesthetics, like a philosophical question. And it's a question of like valuing something because I identify with it, as opposed to being able to value something because I know I can see its greatness.
Mm-hmm.
And so, am I imbuing something with greatness because I identify with it?
That's fair. I think my pushback against that is that I don't really think there is an idea of objective greatness. The things that you think of as great that maybe have nothing to do with your own personal experiences, but you can look at them and say, wow, that's a phenomenal art object. I'd say that's still a subjective experience in a way. Like I would resist putting into the idea of one box holds objectively great works of art and the other box holds things that mean something to me personally, and view it maybe more as a spectrum.
This is me like kind of just thinking through all that and going back to that, original question, which might be a dorm room conversation of like,
no, these are I think these are the eternal questions that we critics have to wrestle with. I mean, we've seen before, I think both of us have seen before, where like we walk out of a film in tears and 2 weeks later we're like, yeah, it was okay. It wasn't the greatest thing. It wasn't the greatest thing ever made. Like things fade, things change.
I'm also not really, I really don't believe my question to be true, and I apologize for that. Like I know that my premise is like coming from a place of just overthinking.
But I think the exercise, it's worth it asking the question for rhetorical purposes, if nothing else.
Yeah, absolutely. And thinking of like the favorites and the greatest conversation, I don't have that conversation. Like the 10 is the 10, baby. So I think we should talk about something in making the kind of canon that we make, right? There's a conversation about, is this film so wildly different from After Sun? Does that matter?
Are we saying that we don't want two similar films in the canon?
I'm asking the question. I'm asking that question. I'm asking the question, are they like twinned films in your mind too? They are so similar, and yet I experienced them so differently.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to see them as joined at the hip in some ways artistically. I had slightly different reactions to them. I think, this really gets granular, but there is something different between a parent and a sibling in terms of how we view those people over time and how we process grief. And that's a very fine distinction in films that are otherwise, as you say, very similar. But for me, the the sensations that that these two films elicit are slightly different.
They are slightly different, and they're going about them in different ways, even though they are like ostensibly films that reveal themselves to be about their creators and their troubled childhoods and their these memory palaces. I don't care. Ultimately, I don't care about that question, I think. And I just kind of pose it because I was thinking about it earlier. And that, well, first of all, if that's the case, I guess we got to get rid of one of welfare or hospital.
We just like off the cuff put two Weissman's Head without even really thinking about it.
And Suspiria.
Right.
But these are all very different. Okay.
But those two films are in conversation with each other. Like Suspiria and Suspiria are in conversation with each other very explicitly. Two different filmmakers making the quote unquote same film in two radically different ways. The welfare hospital thing was just because we're big Weissman heads, obviously, but because both films came up so much during the conversation, it felt like we couldn't not put them in as a package. In this case, I think it's a really instructive to see two filmmakers from different backgrounds, both English language filmmakers, granted, but two filmmakers from different backgrounds making a same sort of subtype of film, but using their own unique formal approaches and unique experiences to inform it.
So let me ask you then, do you vote this one in?
I'm wavering. I'm really tempted to, actually.
Oh, well,
how many votes do I have? How many votes do I have?
We both have 7 for the rest of the year. I am going to say I am not going to vote this in.
I am.
All right.
I like this film a lot. I'm actually starting to. So the Take-Up Canon is now getting sufficiently robust that I'm actually starting to think of it in two categories, which is the current release category and the quote unquote older films category, where older might be 3 years ago.
That's kind of how I'm keeping them straight in my head too.
But I think I am going to vote for this because partly because again I think it's an incredibly strong piece of filmmaking for a feature debut. I mean, obviously Rivari's worked really hard for years now on short films, trying to sort of hone her technique, hone her message, hone her ideas.
Yeah, like I said, but naturally talented from the jump. I mean, I would recommend anyone who goes to Criterion Channel or sees this physical media. I'm sure there's a release soon. They haven't already announced it. I don't know. I don't remember. But the shorts are really strong that are available on Criterion Channel too.
Yeah, I like this film a lot, and I think it doesn't hurt to have more current films that leave a strong impression in there. I think it doesn't hurt to have another woman filmmaker in the mix. So for all those reasons, and the fact that despite myself, I did get it was a little dusty in there at the end.
A little. Well, I was gagged, mama. I was gooped. Anyway, okay. So I'm going to do it. And
I've got the list open already.
What if I voted no because I didn't want to think of the list? No, I'm kidding.
You're bumping up against, I got to keep it short so I can keep doing this stupid stunt.
You're at 6. I'm at 7. Oh, 6, 7. Fun. Okay. No Country. Nope. We gotta do it right. Far From Heaven. No Country for Old Men. Taxi Driver. Rushmore, The Graduate. One Battle After Another. Misericordia. The Secret Agent. Suspiria, Resurrection. After Sun, Messiah of Evil. Now I'm doubting that I've missed some, but I don't think I have. After Sun, Messiah of Evil, Zodiac. How could you girl? Man with a Movie Camera, The Last Laugh, Welfare Hospital, Armavap, Killer of Sheep. We had 2 guests. Army of Shadows, The Prestige, and Blue Heron. Fuck.
Wow.
I wonder at what point we're going to give that up.
You're just gonna break. You're gonna get to the point where your mnemonic devices are failing. So
yeah. All right. Well, that's exciting, Blue Heron. Welcome.
Yeah.
You have good company. Okay.
Not
Well,
bad. So not bad. Sophie Ramvari, your first feature film, made it in.
all right. We've got one more thing. And every week we run out with one more thing. I just give you a list of what? How many is that now? 25 things?
Jesus, I don't know.
It is a list. But here's one more thing. I think I go first.
Yep.
This time. I have been reading the book Sky Daddy by Kate Folk. Do you know about Sky Daddy?
No, I have like 3 different things that book could be about in my mind.
I'm so tempted to have you list those 3 things because I wonder if it's one of the things. This is about a young woman who has a fascination with airplanes. And was this what you were thinking?
No.
It is a sexual fetish that moves beyond that. She has the thing where it's even defined in the book where she is in love with an inanimate object and has a fantasy that one day she will marry an airplane, and the ceremony is that it crashes with her inside of it, therefore wedding them forever together. And it is very funny. It is very sharp about obsessive behaviors.
Objectophilia is what you're talking about.
Thank you. Objectophilia. It is also very smart about neurodivergence, I think, and about the way our minds and memories work, but it's also just so funny. It's so outrageous. I think it's just it's a fun and quick read too. I don't know a lot about Kate Nash, but my friend Jordan recommended that I read this because she explained this premise to me, and I was like, come on, I love like white women in an existential crisis. Like that's the kind of book I always want to read. I'm mostly kidding. But
do you know about the video game Date Everything?
No.
Have you heard about this?
No.
To send this off onto a tangent. I need you to look into this after this podcast.
Date Everything. I'm not
Date Everything with an exclamation point.
Okay, I can't look at that right now.
I know. I just needed to plant the seed so you can look it up later.
Okay, I will look it up later. Definitely later. It's made by Sassy Chap Games. Anyway, definitely later. But yeah, so definitely recommend it for the adventurous reader. I mean, she is very sexually aroused by airplanes. So there are long passages of her her objectophilia, we will say. But that's Sky Daddy by Kate.
That's amazing.
I say Kate Nash?
I think you did. Different person.
That is a completely different person. It's no.
When did this novel come out? What year is this?
Oh, just recently. I think it's been relatively. It came out last year, and it's somewhat of a sensation. I think when you kind of give that premise, and but I have been walking around the Paris metro with a copy of Sky Daddy, and an elderly woman did ask me what it was about. And I said, non français.
Probably easier.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I don't quite have those words yet. But so you can find that, in a bookstore, in a brick and mortar bookstore that you go to. And you have a stack of other things that you get there too. But that's Sky Daddy. You can find me at OK Josh Ray and at the Take-Up STL. And what about you, Andrew?
I recently saw the film The Currents. This is a new drama from a Swiss-Argentine director named Milagros Mumenthaler. I quite liked it. I'm not recommending it as like a great film, but I'm recommending it as a very interesting film. I saw it at the Webster Film Series this weekend. How to describe this? So this is about a woman. I'll call it a psychological portraiture film, or some people are describing it as a psychological thriller. I don't really see the thriller elements at all, but it's a psychological drama, let's say. And it's about this woman, maybe 30-something. Her job's a little ambiguous to me. I think she's like a production designer for theater. So she seems to be like really well known and respected in her field. And like, she's a very desirable get for a theater to be able to use her. And at the beginning of the film, she's Argentinian, but she's in Switzerland to receive an award. And she goes to a ceremony. She gets a little trophy. A bunch of people like ooh and ah over her, and she walks around this. I think she must be in Zurich or Bern or some other big city, and she walks around after the ceremony and jumps into the freezing river for no apparent reason whatsoever, off a bridge, and she survives and goes back to her hotel and then goes back to Buenos Aires and goes about her life. But this changes her in profound ways, or maybe it just unlocks something that was always there. The proximal effect is that she develops a very strange and severe hydrophobia where she can't even like wash her hair or be in contact with water at all, because of how thoroughly this experience has discombobulated her. But really, it's a film about depression and existential sort of alienation and dissociation. And the film strongly implies and then eventually sort of opens up and acknowledges openly that this woman has been having mental health issues for a long time that she had inherited from her mother and has sort of repressed them or kept them under control for a long time. And this sort of impulsive, intrusive thoughts, suicide attempt ? In Switzerland has unlocked something, and her whole reality starts to sort of unravel a bit. Her relationship with her husband and her young daughter and everybody around her starts to suffer, and her behavior becomes erratic. I don't want to spoil too much else about what happens, but I really enjoyed it. It does start to do some interesting things in its second half that start to become sort of magical realist or surrealist that I wasn't 100% on board with, because I think it sort of draws focus away from the intensity of the psychological drama of just sort of keeping the camera focused on this woman and what she's going through. But you can argue that those magical realist flourishes are part of her perspective. But for the most part,
it's very Carnival of Souls.
Yeah, not that intense, and not that horror coded, but yeah.
Do you know Christian Petzold's early film Yella?
I've heard about it. I haven't seen it. Yeah,
it's his riff on Carnival of Souls.
Oh, okay.
With Nina Haas. Can you get your butt on that?
Okay, it sounds like my jam.
It is.
It's all the Nina Haas. I'm there.
Your thing, very much your thing.
The strongest thing I will say about it, again, the filmmaking technique is very good. It shoots. I think it's supposed to be Buenos Aires. It shoots this sort of urban Argentine landscape really beautifully, but without sort of neglecting the grunginess. And the real feature is the lead actress, Isabel. I'm going to say her name if I can. Isabel Ami Gonzalez Solo. She's phenomenal. So much of the movie is about her face in like tight close-ups and watching her sort of semi-blank reactions to things and trying to puzzle out what's going on in her head, because she's not 100% sure what's going on with her either. From that alone, if you like that kind of psychological drama and that kind of like intense character study, I think it's worth seeking out. Right now, I started hearing about this film back in January, and it's just now starting to creep out into theatrical release. But I think we'll see. I'm hearing that we'll see a VOD or home release sometime in this fall.
Just so people know, like when we make the recommendations or the main films, we always put like justwatch.com links to the films so that you can get a up-to-date version of where to find what we've been talking about. And not every single thing that we talk about, because we talk about a lot. But we will link the currents in the show notes. And so you'll be able to see if it's playing near you or if it's available online. We do that all the time. But we're here for you.
You can find me at AWyatt76 on Letterboxd, Blue Sky, and on the takeup.com.
Very cool. Well, we are taking a week off because we're preparing our big pre-canon pre-canon palooza. Something. We're going to be going back and taking a look at the
Jubilee, let's call it.
Jubilee, yeah. The 70-some, 80-some films. We've covered a lot. We've had a lot of episodes.
Here's a question for you. How many episodes are we on right now? I think we're creeping up on 100.
We may have passed it. And
shit.
I said absolutely nothing about it.
Shit.
We have had 104 episodes.
Oh, shit. We passed it. We didn't even say anything.
Okay, but we've had bonus episodes. Hold on. I'm doing this math right now.
Mm-hmm.
We've had 1, 2.
It's riveting podcasting here, folks.
We had 1 episode split into 2.
Mm-hmm.
You know what?
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be our 100th episode.
This movie?
I'm not kidding. I am not kidding.
Wow.
Because we had 4 bonus episodes that I'm calling them bonus episodes. I get to do the math. This is our podcast.
You could go retroactively go back and number them too if you wanted to, I suppose.
I suppose. Exactly.
All right. So we're taking next week off and then we're reconvening for a sort of omnibus episode.
Question mark episode in which we add some number of films to the Take-Up Canon, not too many, because Josh has a thing where he likes to play a game and remember them. I don't know. But we'll have a lot of fun there. So until then, thank you to Ethan Tarantella for being our star master guide editor, man. Kayla McCullough for being that chick. Theme music by AMP, and I'll see ya in 100 minutes, 100 weeks, 100. It's our 100 Palooza. Bye.